Yo, welcome to the stream. Let me just confirm that YouTube's going. Alright, I see the connection. Let's try the audio. Alright, I see the connection. Let's try the audio. Good stuff, okay. Alright. Hey, I'm using my own Twitter app more and more. So, alright. One of the main reasons I started doing this stuff, if you go back on the channel, like almost 5 years, is talking practice and just kind of like disgruntled with big tech. And yeah, I've got a lot of specialist skills in scaling big tech systems, but I'm also pretty good at being a generalist, and being a generalist is how I got my start. And you know, sort of where you go when being a specialist isn't paying the bills. So, you know, you can make a lot of money being a specialist, but then there's little demand. So it's just a supply and demand issue. So I'm not sure where this stream is going to go today. One thing I do know is I'm going to say like a lot less. Wow, that got bad. When I was in school, one of my friends and I had a drinking game where we would take a drink every time we said like. It was really funny. It's not that we played it all the time, but she lived like just up the street from me, and we knew each other from before university, so we met up every now and then, and she'd bring like a 12-pack over or something. But yeah, so I've been doing a ton of coding. I'm quoted as saying I have like at least 19 code bases in Python, and I started Python when I got this laptop in May because it's Windows S mode, and that's limited to signed code, and the only signed code I know how to run is from the App Store, and the only languages in the App Store are Python, Lua. There's no VS Code, there's no Java, there's no Closure, sadly, which is what I'd really love to coding in. No Node.js, and so I don't really like Node.js anyway. So Python seemed like the best choice. Lua is a good choice too, depending what you're doing, but Python is definitely a popular language, so went with that. And that's what the Twitter app is written in. This new JavaScript-less technology called HTMX, and you know, that's been like a month out of the 6 months that I've been working in Python. And yeah, I've got the Notes app that was packaged up and ready for release by early July. I think I actually launched it in August, and then I put out bed RSS like a week or two later, and I've got a couple JavaScript scripts as well for scraping content from popular social media sites into the Notes app. So yeah, I'd say I'm pretty well versed in Python. And now, how do you build a business online is the subject. So they say that this board's kind of bouncy. They say that time is money. but actually it's not completely true. Time is greater than money, and to make it technically true, we could say time is greater than or equal to money. So I'm building all these apps, going all the way back to 2018. I built a live streaming platform using this Raspberry Pi technology as well. Forward to 2020, I built this while I was living in my car during pandemic, and this is on Patreon. I used it as a way to learn how to use Shopify, and I had it listed on Shopify for a while. So practical skills. Back in the day, I did API integrations like authorize.net for credit card, and also PayPal, which was a simpler option, although you had to go through the PayPal web flow, which some customers of mine, I had a small agency and I went to work for bigger agencies, kind of skirted around the whole building a business aspect of it, 'cause like coding's always been my thing. So I've always been on the side of selling my time for money. And when I was younger, before the agencies, before my agency, it was just, you know, basically my agency was word of mouth references. So it was maybe a blue ocean for e-commerce at the time, and I had a good solution and the pricing was very good. So people just hired me and referred me all over the place, and it was good. And you know, there wasn't the same kind of online marketplaces as there are today either. But ultimately I decided that I just wanted stable money and worked for an agency, and then worked for a bigger government department when, you know, I was driven by my tech skills still. Like, I wanted bigger tech challenges than the agency, which with an agency, the more, you know, cookie cutter, the better. And that's not a pejorative. That's not, you know, talking down in any way. But, you know, I've always been on the road towards specialist. So, yeah, now I have like intermediate Python skills. I can sell my time for money. Now there's something else too, which is intellectual property. So back in the day, and I gotta remember to keep tapping the computer because it's not plugged in, and if it shuts off then the audio gets all screwed up, the stream gets interrupted. So time is greater than money, and we got intellectual property to worry about, which is something that, so personally I feel that these days coding is a trade, and coding is far from the only part of running a business. So a trade is like plumber, concrete, you know, coding is a trade these days. So you go on as a coder, you know, you go on as a concrete guy, you work for someone else's business, you're not really developing intellectual property. Like, there's red ocean, blue ocean industries. And this is an idea from Harvard Business Review on strategy, which is a series of essays. So it's an essay in that compilation. Red ocean, blue ocean. So blue ocean means there's not a lot of competition. Basically, any direction you go, you're going to get fresh water. And red ocean means there's a lot of predators and prey in the water. You know, think blood in the water. Sharks swimming around, eating the prey, eating the fish. Maybe you could say there's a lot of fish in the blue ocean, and there's a lot of carnage in the red ocean. because there's a lot of sharks in the red ocean. So at the time I went into business, my agency would be, 2000, probably like 4, even earlier, like 2002. And I didn't run it for very long before I went to work. So I'm from a super blue collar family. And so for them it was always, oh, computers aren't a real job, computers crash. Coming from a sperm donor, that's my word for less than father, less than dad, my sperm donor, was like, oh yeah, computers crash, so they're not a real job. Meanwhile, guy works on cars, which do what? And when they do what, it costs what? Money, meaning that there's a business to be built around cars that crash. There's a business to be built around computers that crash. No. So probably the next video that I do is going to touch more on the subject of, you think your friends and family are always going to be on your side, supportive of you, this and that, and if they're not, it's kind of like, it doesn't make sense, but you might not think anything of it. But I'm not going to stick on that point. But anyway, so the comments didn't really make sense, but it turns out that there's a theme to those sorts of comments that don't make sense and a reason behind it. So yeah, like 2002, there was definitely a blue ocean. I guess .com was 2000, but now we're in like 2022, and it's like an order of magnitude. Like the population on the internet. It's probably like here around 02, and obviously now we're in 22. I just saw a curve the other day. I don't have the exact source. But yeah, I was like, it's like 4 or 5 times more people on the internet today than there were back then. And, everyone has these in their pocket now, and there was no such thing back then. There was little pocket computers that, like, the geekiest of the geeky had. But yeah, so there weren't, there wasn't Gumroad, there wasn't Shopify, there wasn't, a lot of options to do e-commerce. I mean, people wouldn't even the first thing I ordered online was probably like O2, like a mouse or some kind of light from the site ThinkGeek. And, yeah, like other than really well-known, reputable companies, like people were like super skeptical about using your credit card online. I mean, a lot of people didn't even have credit cards, so the opportunities to make money online today versus then are way more. Like, maybe if I would have stuck at it back then, I would have done just fine. Like, the first agency I worked for is still around and doing great. And, But yeah, so I was a specialist over and over and over again. I went to school to, amp up my ability to specialize, and I did that. And now I basically, because of my last video yesterday, basically had a dispute with an employer. The employer ruined my ability to basically work again, at least in the foreseeable future, until somehow I can prove that enough time has gone by that I'm not going to commit violence in the workplace, which was never a thing. But, a powerful company, you'd think that they would have, good mediation services, but no, HR is a cleanup service, not a mediation service. Keep that in mind, young developers. But so there should be as much opportunity now as ever to, make some money online. And when I was making the vlogging service, iSpooge Live in 2018, I mentioned that I hate the word content. I don't like it being called content. I'd rather it be called, author or something other than content. But, content marketing is now a thing, and if you want to make a business, you have to get money, and vloggers aren't really in it for money, and so they're not really going to be paying money. It's sort of like a hobbyist thing, people might spend money for model railroading or something. Maybe people will spend some money for vlogging, but it's usually tied into, they usually merchandise it. Teespring's another one. We've said Shopify, Gumroad, Fiverr is one that I didn't mention, but that's directly selling time for money for the most part. You might be able to sell physical products, but I think it's more service based. And then we said Shopify, Fiverr, Gumroad, Teespring, I think is what I just said. I don't know if you can read that maybe a little bit if you're in HD. So yeah, I spent the last 6 months coding, which has meant I've been pretty much in isolation. My phone has been shut off for months. Just because even $60 a month, switch to Mint Mobile, it's $15 a month, whatever. Even $15 a month, that's a few days of food. So, everything's cut. Not using, I've literally not left a few block radius in months. Because even, gas and insurance are too much, so can't really afford to drive anywhere. So you're coming from a place of desperation. That's why you're making this stream. So yeah, anyone who was thinking about giving me money or hiring me just ran away. That's okay. So I mentioned intellectual property because I'm apprehensive about selling my time for money, just because I don't want to mix up the intellectual property that I've made with whatever my customers might want to do. And the closer what they're doing is to what I've been doing, the more they're going to want to hire me. But then the higher the chances of, even if I don't officially sign a non-compete, it's still I just don't want to pollute my intellectual property with theirs, especially because I know that I have the capacity to be very successful. And I'm gonna stick keep the talk of basically the other side of the coin of, I'm officially, on paper guilty of workplace violence. So what does that mean in terms of how people treat me? Which is very, very poorly. And if it were true, it would be deserved, but it's not true. But then you get opportunists, and they have little knowledge of the tech industry where I used to be. And, basically, I'm mentioning this just because it's related. But yeah, when a successful person has to go back to their old life with their relatives and people they left behind, it's a mix of envy, revenge, clout chasing on top of plain old ego and control. A tune present in my early life was how Midwesterners are tougher and have better work ethic than West Coasters. So no doubt there's an element of that in the power trip these demons are on over me. They have their chance to prove themselves now while I'm weak. And, then I just allow, start blah, 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 right? So the point is, so these people have seen, TV shows and movies about Silicon Valley. They have ideas like, oh, the guy who painted the Facebook headquarters, traded his, instead of getting paid in cash, he got paid in equity and he became a millionaire. And, so it's like easy money to them, but and like things like, oh, guy was working on his startup and he used like 38 cents of electricity from his employer, but his employer, gave the employer some share of the company or something. And like my relatives have right when I got here, one of my relatives made a comment like that, and it was just like, on top of the already weird vibes that I'm having, it's like, okay, so I'm just not going to do any tech work in this house using my relative's electricity. Just because, like, if they're aware of stuff like that and they're being super weird to me, it's just like, okay, are they setting themselves up for a claim? And, like, same thing, like, I've got a history in big tech. And so if I go to work for somebody and they know that I've got a history in big tech and, basically was disgraced out, however true the basis is or not, defamation is false. And I know, like, claiming defamation is a big thing now for, like, I don't want to get too into that, but basically, like, the intellectual property angle is because, I'm like a once big fish with very valuable skills, and they basically see opportunity and take it. Like, it's completely rational, It's called Red Ocean for a reason. There's sharks swimming around in the water, there's blood everywhere, and, I'm the prey right now. So if I was just some random person who's never accomplished anything, then, people wouldn't. Like right now, like people who I've known for a decade, 2 decades are still following me, like, because I've done big things and I'm probably going to do big things in the future. Oh, get over yourself is what they'd say, but that's them punching me down. And I'm just like, whatever, the way they like come into my chats and things like that. It's just like little gnats. And that's not me, I'd love to, I've tried to work and build with these people, but it's like, the easy money thing is just like, it's easier to try to kick me while I'm down, take my stuff, than to, work with someone who's disgraced. It's the short-term mindset. And I'm afraid that, all but the very, very tiny fraction of business owners are going to be thinking the same thing. Like, they'll go through, because like everyone just, it's a tough market, like, and so I don't blame them. It's just I have to protect myself, and really someone in my position should have a lawyer to review every agreement and stuff like that. And until I get enough money for a lawyer, I've been totally avoiding doing any kind of tech work. And, it's not just being paranoid, it's just protecting my business, protecting my legacy for my children that I'm going to pass down. I've done tons of open source work in my life. If I could join a monastery or start a monastery, start a foundation for open source stuff, I would do that. And maybe when I'm out of debt, I will. But for now, I've got to finish paying off my student loan debt. however much you may want to criticize me for not having done that while I had good income, you know. And I really only, yeah, I mean, I shouldn't sit here defending myself. You know, the point is, like, so my intellectual property is the stuff that turns the ocean red. And so selling my time for money is pretty much a thing that I don't want to do. So now how do I make my time greater than money? It's, you know, basically, you know, a lot of options to do e-commerce. I mean, people wouldn't even the first thing I ordered online, it's probably like O2, this is like a mouse or some kind of e-commerce. I mean, people wouldn't even the first thing I ordered online, it's probably like O2, this is like a mouse or some kind of e-commerce. I mean, people wouldn't even Oh, I see. It's, oh, good Lord. I was on top of this. Let's see. Maybe if I unplug the mic. Check. Check. Oh Lord. Check. Let's see. Check. Oh Lord. Check. Let's see. Check. Oh Lord. Check. Three. Let's see. Check. Oh Lord. Check. Three. Let's see. Did it get fixed? Check. Oh Lord. Check. Three. Let's see. Oh Lordy, what a pain. Oh Lordy, what a pain. That's not too bad, okay. Oh Lordy, what a pain. That's not too bad, okay. It's gonna keep getting worse. Oh Lordy, what a pain. That's not too okay. So, let's see. So yeah, in order to basically avoid becoming the red in the ocean, I should try to figure out ways to sell products. Okay, so now how do I make a product out of, you know, what's left of my career? Okay, so you need feedback to make a product. Pardon the writing, it's getting a little bit low down there. But, so you need feedback. But because of what I was talking about yesterday, you know, the transitive guilt thing, I don't really have many people to get feedback from. So I've got like a few people left who will still talk to me. And then I've got social media channels where people, you know, come at me, you know, invade my comment sections, invade my chats, you know, people who used to know me who are, you know, turning me into the red in the ocean. Who knows why? Maybe they've got competing products, maybe they're just, you know, like I said on the tweets, you know, maybe they're just, you know, getting revenge, you know, using the opportunity to have business that they're doing it as sort of a clout, you know, take my past success and, you know, connect with people I use, doing me wrong sort of thing. What have I done? I've my intellectual property. I made papers. And something I've done here is I've made services. Used my I've made hardware, which is computer. So, I mean, but I don't have the features I need. And, you know, get anonymous trolling from people and the private investor, it's making hard because who I haven't met. Pandemic, everyone's tired of hearing, but no one is going to want to meet in real life. You know, meetups were shut down. If I were able to, like, where nobody knew I was going and I could trust the people, like walking into a retail yesterday. So I need to alias. It's not connected. Well, since I used to work, there's a pretty. I mean, you're able to. I just need to like total identity, like different phone number, because someone calls in a favor to at a big tech co and says phone number or what use, because example, may sound and paranoid and but I'm a big tech inside work that extreme. And am I, you know, think that people would do that to me? All these years, I feel happening are, you know, going down. Showing myself to be and not a threat. You know, audio is. Check. Interesting. I don't know the client side or probably the client side because the broadcast or probably the client. Yeah, it seems like the audio is due. This has happened. Yeah, basically I recording properties, levels. I just changed the sample, but it had before as well, so I'm not 100. Yeah, I mean, all right. So on the like business side. Man, this is intense, Mark. That's wild. Be back in a few seconds. Have I said like yet? Like a lot less. It was bad from the last few videos. Gosh, homeless guy with me from whiteboard. Did I bring this? I think I bought this whiteboard here. Right, so what's the business? October, July, September, October. I had a coffee shop about, and I tip generously, so $5 per trip. For tip, a free rate, it's $5 a day. Black coffee. asked me to learn Python, so that's, just say $5 a month. That's $5, so it's $100 a month, so $600 on my apps. And the reason is I work better. 5 is great, done by noon. Opens at noon. So Saturday, yes, 9. At 9, so it's at 12 or 9. So from to, so let's do it the other way. Sunday, Wednesday, the option until noon. Stay here, it seems like. So in the basement, breather down here, and it's, why don't you just dust it? Seems like that'd be less than $600. So there's actual property issue that I just mentioned. Just for safety, I don't want to do any, like I'll do education, but I'm not going software, which marginal costs taken, and that's not to say it's taken from me, but it's like there's weird aggressive behavior. Like it seems like get more into it in, but next video. But yeah, it says I don't trust working here to really have space to development in, and all these apps are partial or built up enough if judgment and fire safe.
Check. Check. Check 4. Check 4.
See how it works. So could I have done better than us? So now that the price. Now if we did co-working plus, which would be an extra, so also extra time. So days a week, actually usually, but 5 times 20 a week times 6, so 80 a month times 6 months. 6 times 8 is 4. If I found a co-working spot, then I'd be total. And I think $100, yeah, $20 to find one for $100. So possibility it's to get downtown. An hour each, hours a day. They open at 5 a.m. Can I get the bus at 5 a.m.? I don't know. Maybe. And actually 4 at 5 a.m. So to me, like a shop and spending that money isn't that. Now I don't have for coffee. Do I just, it's sort of like if you can't afford, you just start having sex. Should you just maybe things until you've got again? That sort of an example that most people would understand. Intellectual property, not even after, just period. Can't afford to go develop it. So it's all skills. So I should change my activities and do, which would be creating an anonymous brand, creating more property that I've developed, and just going into sales. Getting on the out, sure how the audio's looking into sales. On the out, sure how the audio's looking. On the out, sure how the these channels, like one thing that YouTube has messed with is my analytics, confidence. And I'm linked with this account. It would definitely be suspect. I create it from the address linked with this account. Figure out that it's the same person. Super good ad technology out. Marketing person. Not that I have time with them just figuring out why. It might not, but basically building a big tech. Use it. Go. This is there. use. It's just thinking about everywhere I not playing. It's just sort of like set it up and do it. The thing is, and so this isn't my total expense. So like I'm probably like $10 a day on food, which is $1,200 in that 6 months. So. Sorry, I know this is transit food. And this was $5 a day. This was $4 a day, $2 each way. Might even be peak, so it might even be $5. Anyway, forgot about that. And this is like $10 a day. So, like I said it, like, where's my drinks? Being a homeless guy, really don't want to drink, because it's just, oh, that's why you're homeless. So, as my savings dwindles, every day the $10 becomes more and more expensive relative to what I have left. So like anything I invest my time in, it's sort of like I've got this delta of time left, and every day there's expenses that I can't get away from spending, right? And so I've definitely been worse off. I've been in the situation where I've had like literally no money, no phone service, just really bad situation. And, to the point where I couldn't even afford water. Oh, just find a hose. I mean, everyone's got these solutions. Okay, how do I get to a hose? I walk around while I'm thirsty, find a bus. That's why I started writing The Physics of Homelessness. It's because, like, there's this whole situation where you get so boxed in that you really don't have any options. So, like, most people are way, way, way out here where they got, like, well, I mean, a good amount of people will be homeless after missing a couple paychecks. So, hence why a lot of people might be so insecure to begin with. But I've known mostly responsible people who went on to become, wealthy either through intellect or money, generally secure people. So, that really is me. It's just I've been politically assassinated, and so I've been forced all the way down into here.
So to see if to make it so that it doesn't ever so how do system that's as big there we go. On screen. Actually, when plugged in, turn off. Okay, that'll stop being a problem. But I started writing my books, The Physics of Homeless, to be able to relate to people over here what my constraints are down here. Well, people over here are not thinking going broke from $5 a day. So it's like drink cups a day. So, or if it's within my food budget, potato chips, that's probably it's a food item I buy. I don't buy it every day. It probably costs like a day. Although it is like 1,200 calories oil, it doesn't make my face break out. So it's like not the worst. But certainly, coffee and potato chip life, you guys. A function to in that future. Most people relate with a wealth cannot level of
I forgot to mention too is Patreon, like creator economy. Thanks again to my buddy who's been on backing me. Thanks, man. You know, that would be the ideal, you know, because if I had my budget in a month and that didn't pay car insurance and gas, I'm not there anymore. Factored in 120 base, factors a day for food because you have a kitchen, so you've got to pay more. And, you know, talked about, you know, the books, the business of homeless focuses on, you know, that, whereas Urban Camping Pro is regardless of cost. I mean, yeah, selling Patreon, intellectual property, the red ocean that a lot of, et cetera. Thanks for joining. Forward to seeing you next time. Ciao.